Hello, everybody, and welcome to Highway the Hidden podcast. I'm your host, Polar Bear, and on tonight's episode, we have Miss Katherine. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing very well.
So, I hear you have a pretty good story about a Bigfoot.
Well, like I said, it was because I'm always very much a skeptic. So I was camping. I do women's adventure courses. So I was camping up at Lake Tom Bigby, and this would be the first part of June of 2023. So I got there on a Wednesday night. Powwow and stuff starts on Friday, so I wanted to be there to set up. And I got there, and it takes me a while to get everything done. I had to help another camper. So it ended up being close to, I would say, 11:30 midnight. I hear I was just assuming that it was probably like kids, something like that, playing Blair Witch in the woods. But it was this weird guttural, like screaming. And in my mind, the only thing I could come up with what would sound like that would be a swamp witch, whatever a swamp witch would sound like, because it did not sound human, really. It was something really, it didn't even sound animal. It was just this really, really an odd thing. But, still, like I said, being a cynic, I was like, it's probably these, kids in the woods. So I go ahead, I finish doing what I'm doing. My husband, I called him to let him know that I was there and start getting camp set up. And he could hear it. He could hear it through the phone. And the same thing, I just kept telling him I thought it was kids. So the next morning, I go down to the little camp store. I'm going to buy some bait for fishing and get some ice. And I tell the camp manager about it. And he looks at me and he says, "That was Bigfoot." And I'm like, "I'm sure you're kidding me, tell that to some other tourist, yada, yada." And he says, no, he says that the Bigfoot Hunters television show comes there twice a year, in October and in May. And he said they had just left like 2 weeks prior. At that time, he told me that they had found things around the dumpster, like footprints that they were attributing to Bigfoot at that time, that this area was particularly a hotbed of activity for the Bigfoot. And, he said that the Native American culture very much believes in Bigfoot. They consider it a spirit animal. And I was like, well, okay, make a good story, if anything. So, I go on, I'm doing my stuff. And I was also bringing books down for the summer reading program for the tribal school. And I was talking to one of the officers that was helping me unload books, and I told him about what happened. And he says, no, here, we even have a special radio code on the radio for Bigfoot sightings. And he said they get about 400 sightings a year. So I found that to be very, very interesting.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And where is this located at?
Lake Tom Bigby. It's just past Livingston. It's a tribal land, so it's Coshada tribal land. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of Bigfoots that come out of East Texas. There are a lot of stories that come out, but a lot of stories out of there. I've heard a lot of them. So, are you originally from that area? Are you from around here?
Nope, I'm right here, Galveston, Texas Gulf Coast.
Is that your only Bigfoot encounter that you've had, there?
Yeah, that is my only one. So I've been back. This coming end of May will be my third trip out there to do the adventure courses. Last year was quiet. It was nothing. I was almost disappointed,
Right.
After the first one, being so exciting. In the meantime, I have talked to other people, and I had talked to a gentleman that lives here local, and he is very much a Bigfoot enthusiast. And he was telling me that whenever he goes camping in the Big Thicket area, he always has a stick, like a wooden dowel, he said, and you tap it on the tree. And he says, and then sometimes you will hear in response another tree to, some Bigfoot. He says that's how he believes that the Bigfoots communicate, is by the sound and this tapping. So I thought that was very, very interesting.
Yeah, the tree knocks. I've heard that from a few people that say if you hit the tree, they'll knock back. So has it piqued your interest more after hearing the scream and stuff? You started to research more into the...
Oh, yes, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Did you ever see the Patty film?
No.
The Bob Gimlin. So that film, you should check it out. It's really good. So they say it's the only actual real video of Bigfoot. So it's a female Sasquatch. They confirm she is female, and she's walking, and the way she turns, it's not natural. It's too how they put it. It's too natural to be someone in a suit, and they call it Patty. I think it was filmed. I know it was Bob Gimlin. I forget the other gentleman's name, but it was in the 60s, I want to say, or 50. I could be wrong on that. But that's the only one that came out of California. Was it California? Yeah, it's just up there, northwest somewhere. And yeah, and I know, like I was saying, like the big thicket up there in East Texas, they have a lot of different Bigfoot encounters and sightings. I've seen a few like Facebook pages where they post like the cast of like the footprint they'll find and stuff like that. And so the tribal police even said that they had over 400 calls right there on tribal land. That blows my mind. I didn't even know there was a tribal land in that area.
Yeah. There's well, are you from this area?
I live in Santa Fe. Yes.
Okay. So back, when I was a kid, I mean, even 70s and probably early 80s, they had shot a village, so it was the tribal village, and they had like a little tour train that would take you around, and you could see kind of, what the village life would have been like back in the day. So I remember that as a kid, but I never thought of Bigfoot way back then. So it's been there for quite some time. I believe they had a fire in maybe the late 80s, 90s, and it burnt down a lot of stuff, and they never rebuilt. Instead, they went and they built, the casino. I hear that they have plans to enlarge that, and they are supposed to build like another, replica type of a village just to kind of keep with the history, to promote it for the kids and other people.
Yeah, so that's kind of cool. Yeah, I've always the more I've looked into Bigfoot, I've realized like the sightings are getting more and more. And I think it's as we progress as people, we push deeper into the forest that were never inhabited before. So I think it's taking away their habitat. Cause I think I don't think it's just one. I think they travel in packs. From like the research I've done. I watched a ton of documentaries. I've read books on it. And I think there's more packs of them than just one singular Bigfoot. I think they have like an alpha, and then they have, den mothers and betas, and it goes all the way down and to the babies. And they're pretty interesting creatures, whether they're real or not. But if they're not real, then I guess everybody that's had the similar stories like yours or something like mine, I guess we're all, just making it up. That's what the skeptics say.
Yeah. And I don't think anybody's making it up, because like I said, I mean, I am very much a skeptic. I'm quite cynical about these things in general, the nature. And for this, like I said, the sound itself was so different than anything I have ever heard. Not animal, not human, So it was something, like I said, I mean, I could not even recreate that noise,
Was it like a robotic kind of scream?
No,
no.
Like I was saying earlier, if I could imagine what a swamp witch would sound like, because my campsite was right near the water, so you could just like hear it. I mean, all around you, it was like echoing through that whole campground, that woods area. But it was just this screaming, and it didn't go on for a short period of time. It went on for probably a good 2 hours.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Oh wow! I wonder what was going on to make them scream like that.
Yeah.
Have you looked into the Ohio Ohio Grassman House?
No. Mostly the only research that I did was kind of around the area of where I was, and I noticed that there's someone there that I guess has written books on it, and they have like meetings, I think quarterly meetings there in Big Thicket to talk about the encounters and what people have seen. There was even a Bigfoot festival of some sort I think they were having. And I had actually wanted to go to the one that was in Louisiana not too long ago, but I was like double booked. So
that would have been cool. Yeah, I would like to go to one of those, check those out, the conventions, and hear people's stories. The Ohio Grassman, they have some screams, and they're on YouTube, and you can hear like the dogs barking, and then you hear like just the scream. It's just so loud. At first, you think, oh, maybe it's like a tornado siren or something, but you could just tell something was screaming. Whatever was screaming was big. No human can scream that loud.
Yeah.
And that's what made me think of like your story, was hearing that, because I've heard those on YouTube, and it's just, I don't know what I'd do if I heard that in the woods. That's creepy. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, after it's like, hindsight is 2020. Because people are like, oh, you should have recorded the noise and all that kinds of stuff. And that was the farthest thing from my mind, because my normal human mind is telling me, oh, you're really not hearing that. You're always trying to rationalize it,
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, people are going to think I'm crazy, but no, I heard what I heard. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And when you're in a situation like that, yeah, the last thing you think about, well, let me pull my phone out. I mean, some people, yeah, there are some people like, oh, they didn't get my phone out, but no. I I mean, it's the same thing you could say with like the people that have, the ghost encounters. Oh, why take a picture? You don't have time to think. You're not thinking about it. Your mind's thinking like, this is not supposed to be real. Why is this happening?
Yeah.
And that's how I look at it. We were talking about that the other day. Me and a couple of buddies were talking about Bigfoot, and what we thought it was, like, I think it's more of an interdimensional being. Like it only lets you see it when it wants you to see it. Other than that, it's just you'll never know it's there, because I think that's the way it's evolved. What do you think it is? What do you think Bigfoot? What's your opinion on what do you think it is?
Well, like we were talking about how all the new building, we're just taking over all of the natural habitat for a lot of animals, and they're kind of being forced out, into our communities. With the Bigfoot, like I said, the sightings are few and far between. So you do kind of wonder, okay, where are they able to hide that they're not being seen? There's cameras on practically every trail nowadays, So I do kind of wonder about like your interdimensional thing, or how they talk about shapeshifters.
Right.
Perhaps, it could be something like that. Either the more I've, like I said, researched just here locally and stuff, I do feel like there is something. It's like, never say never. So there is a possibility that there is something there. I'm wondering about the populations of them, though. How have they dwindled, or are they close to extinction? What's happening there. And then when you think of how they always show the skeletons of the evolution of man, maybe one of those skeletons is actually, a Bigfoot gotten into, the line, because people will always say, oh, well, you've never found a skeleton, or you've never found the remains, or things like that. But how do we know we haven't?
Right. Exactly. And if you look at, especially just going off Texas, you look how hot and humid it is in most places. I mean, things deteriorate quickly, and the animals that we have will eat bones and everything so quickly. So, and that's the thing, like most people say, oh, well, where's the bones? But I don't think that's a valid argument. Where's the bones? Because you can walk in the woods and not find deer bones, bobcat bones. You can walk in the woods and find not a lot of animals' bones. And so I don't think it's a valid argument. But
yeah, I don't think so.
Some people stick by that. That's their one proof that Bigfoot's never existed. There's no bones. That's very interesting. Yeah, it definitely could have broke off from the evolutionary trail or something.
Yeah. Now, this was kind of funny, talking to the campground manager. And I said, well, what does Bigfoot eat? If he's going to the dumpsters, is he just eating like normal camp food or what? And so teasingly, he told me, oh, Bigfoot's favorite is pork chops. So I didn't have any pork chops to leave out for him.
Right. Yeah.
I should leave out a pork chop for Bigfoot, but I didn't.
Make him an offer, and maybe he'll come back and let you get a better look at him. So you're going back, what did you say, in May?
Yeah, the very last weekend of May. That'll be the powwow. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I recently got a camper. I had it custom built and shipped over from Asia. So I'm still in the process of getting it registered. Hopefully this week it'll all be a done deal. But at least I'll have my camper next time, because I've been a car camper before.
Oh, so yeah.
I have those little thin stocking type things that go over the windows to keep the bugs down. But my windows down, because of course, it's just god awful hot in the summertime. And that's the way my forerunner is just car camped. And then I usually do a big pop-up tent with all my other stuff. And I guess you would say, I'm very much a girly girl. So a lot of people, they see me and they're like, there's no way this woman camps. And I'm very much the camper. But I do the whole lampy thing. So my big tent has the chandelier in it. I do the nice tablescapes with the china and the woods behind it, that type of thing.
Right.
Different, yeah.
There's nothing wrong with being comfortable in the woods, I'm all for sleeping on the ground, I guess, when it's necessary. But no, I'm down for a camper too most times. Yeah, I definitely, Man, I need to go check that area out. Do they do like like let people, I don't know, like investigate there or
Well, like
tag,
the big
tag along or something?
and they stay there. So, like I said, I don't know how you get in contact with this Bigfoot Hunter television show, but that's the one that they said, comes there twice a year, and they film up, like I said, I think a month at a time, something like that,
Mhm.
And they had also at that time that they found, well, like I said, the feet prints. So I don't know if they made casts of them or not. It's just kind of like I said in passing. And like I said, when I was talking to the fella, I was still skeptical because I thought he was just kind of, jerking me around there, just kind of tell a tourist something. But when the officers kind of confirmed, about that, then I really kind of started like, hey, okay, maybe there is something here, and I'm very much a lover of nature. I'm all about what you bring in, you take back out. You don't mess up the habitat. That type of a thing. So much is so as I pre-make my food. I bring everything in glass mason jars that I can heat up there, and I bring everything back. I don't even use like paper, products. The ladies' room's another story, but yeah, as far as cotton cloths and things that I can wash as far as the cooking and cleaning and stuff and keeping the campsite neat.
And that's really good too. Yeah. And I think a lot of things is people leaving their food and stuff. And I think that draws them out too. Cause, when I was little, I had a small encounter with one, and that's what kind of got me started. I was like 10, and I was with my dad, and we were in East Texas of all places again. And we were hunting, and, I turned around for something, and it's like real quick. And I don't know if I don't know if it was real. I don't know if I've really seen it, but it piqued my interest. But this thing came down from a tree, and it was holding a branch, and it touched the ground, let go. The branch shot up, and then it ran so fast. I just was like, what was that? And I remember even asked my dad, I was like, what is that? And he was like, oh, it's nothing, don't worry about that. Your mom just playing tricks on you. And ever since then, I've been kind of real big on, well, what is that? And as I've gotten older, I've been able to kind of research more and watch things about it. It still scares me. I don't want to see one up close, but I'd like to see one from a distance.
Yeah. And it's like, you always kind of wonder, what was that old movie back in the 80s, Harry and the Hendersons?
Yeah. Is it friendly like that, or is it,
I wonder, because, some of the stories, people were the scare tactics. Oh, the Bigfoot's mean and terrible and will rip your body apart and things like that. And I was like, well, because I'm an animal lover, I will be feeding squirrels and bears and probably bring a pork chop for Bigfoot next time. That type of thing. So,
yeah. Who was it? I forgot who I was. I listened to a podcast about Bigfoot, and they were talking about what he likes, and these people were setting up peanut butter. I want to say peanut butter and like a Reese's, and they would set them out on these logs, and they'd come back every. I forgot how many days they'd all be gone, but there'd be piles of rocks, like where the Reese's was at. There'd be a pile of rocks, like a small pile. Almost like a peace offering. Like, you bring me this, I'll give you this. And they share it. And, and I think that's pretty cool,
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting creature.
Yeah. And it's kind of amusing. There's another lady in the National Camping Club, and everybody says, oh, you've got to get with her because, she's all about Bigfoot and stuff. And so we still have not had a conversation. We haven't camped together.
Right.
I have a dear friend who lives in Tennessee, and so he's my Bigfoot buddy. So we always talk about, Bigfoot and all that.
Oh yeah, was it the Smoky Mountains up there?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of what is it? The 411? Calls it 411. There's a lot of stories that come out. I forget what they're called. I watch a lot of them on YouTube. They're pretty interesting. Yeah, I try to find some Bigfoot buddies, but they're kind of. I had a few. I had one, and he moved away, so I haven't really kind of lost touch. But that was we kind of bonded over our Bigfoot stories. He was telling me about his and when he was a kid in North Carolina, but he's kind of like me. He wasn't really sure if it was because his dog was acting weird, and then the dog ran, and we were talking about that, and then it kind of it just kind of grew apart over the years. But yeah, that's very interesting. That is very interesting.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look up and see who the fellow is that does like the Bigfoot little conferences and stuff there in the Bigfoot area, because they had one, like I said, but it was kind of my time frame. It didn't line up with it, so I couldn't really go to it. But I was definitely interested to see, what they had to say, with them being there and with so many sightings being reported every year.
Yeah, I would definitely. I wonder if that's is it the Jefferson County? Is it Jefferson County? Is that what it's in?
Polk County.
Polk. Oh, the Polk County. Okay. Yeah, I've heard a lot about Polk County. That would be cool. Yeah. I wonder when it is. I would like to. Is it in May or October?
Oh, well, that's the television show that films there. The subject has been different. I believe he's written books on the subject, something like that, Do you
remember his name?
I don't. I'm going to have to Google that and look it up, But definitely, like I said, the very last weekend of May, it goes May into June, and that's going to be the powwow there. And people come as all nations, so you've got tribes from all over coming there for the powwow, the dances. So it's absolutely beautiful. But that campground, Lake Tom Bigby, it's got to be one of the most beautiful campgrounds I've ever been to. It's very small, but it's gorgeous. You feel like you're in the Garden of Eden there almost.
Right.
Water. I mean, you can fish. There's fly fishing there. I was able to. They've got a new camp host now as of this last year. So who knows? They may have another different one when I get there.
Yeah.
But that one, he told me where there was a gate that would bring you back to the old tribal village when most of it had burned. But there was still some things that you could go. So I kind of just hiked and went through there and saw and did a lot of pictures and stuff. So my group page that I invited you to, there's all kinds of photos in there of different things and probably more videos. So you're welcome to those.
Yeah, I want to go check it out. Definitely get more into it. I found your story and I was watching your video, and then I exited off, and then got busy. But I'm gonna check it out when we get off here. I'm gonna go look at it, look at some of the pictures and stuff. I definitely want to hear more about those. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go up there and maybe go camp out there. Is it open to the public, or is it just certain times?
Oh no, it's open all year long. The campgrounds are. They're old school. Nothing's on computer. It's all done in the book.
Oh, okay.
We would kind of call them and do that. Generally, the campground, I've never been there when it's been overly crowded. Even powwow, it's not overly crowded. I think I had 25 ladies that came for my thing, but that was probably the biggest group that they've had there,
Right.
But it's really, really nice. I think some of the old timers like to come with their little casitas and stuff.
Yeah.
Go do the casino over the weekend. So
Right.
Yeah, where it's located, like I said, it's absolutely beautiful, and it's only maybe 2 minutes from the casino, which is just down the road. But it's just it's really pretty. It's so nice,
Yeah, I might have to go hit the casino, like go stay at the casino, and then venture over there, and especially since you can hike the little village.
Yeah, at the casino there's no rooms. It's a casino only in the little restaurant.
Okay.
So you have to go to another town like Livingston or over to, Polk, to a hotel room. Yeah. No.
Well, maybe I get a camper and go stay at that campground you were telling me about, and then, hike in there and go check out the old village, and maybe I can hear some screams or something set up. And I just want to see the views of the lake and all that. I love.
Yeah, it's very, very pretty. So I tried my hand at the fly fishing, and I don't know what is about it. I used to be quite a good fisherman. My mojo has been off the past couple years. I couldn't catch it if it jumped in the boat,
Right.
People were catching them left and right, and I couldn't catch anything. But something interesting is, we would do these like little sunset kind of like meditation things. So all of us would get our chairs, we'd go behind my campsite and kind of line up around the lake. And I don't know if you've ever seen these. It's like a little musical instrument, but it's a wood frog. So they sell those in Mexico quite a bit. It's got the little ridges on its back, and then you rub the little whip.
Yeah.
And it makes like the frog noise to ribbit. So it's just kind of a fun thing. I had a couple, so I was passing them around, and people were doing those. And the frogs in the pond were responding and croaking back to the wood frog, the musical instrument, which I thought was weird. And it was after that when this other gentleman told me about the sticks, knocking on the trees. And I thought that was kind of neat, but it didn't work on Bigfoot, just the frogs.
It didn't get the Bigfoot to start knocking back.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool though. The tree knocks, yeah, I've heard that a lot. I've heard some people say don't do it because you could have a fight on your hands, and I've heard some people say, yeah, it's not what you think it is. It's more like they'll respond. I think it's just which side of the fence you're on, but I've also heard that the Bigfoots on the West Coast are more generally peaceful, and then the ones down here are really aggressive, and then the ones in Florida are like, don't even be in the woods near them, aggressive. Like they'll take you and run. I don't know. People, we don't really know what they do. To me, I think they're just, like I said, interdimensional beings that just relax and got it figured out and don't worry about what everybody else is doing.
Yeah. This was a crazy sci-fi show my husband had been watching. Oh, and I can't even think of the name of it, but it was basically where the dimension would open up and they would be where there were dinosaurs or different things. Mm-hmm. And so you almost kind of wonder, I mean, that gets more out of the realm of not my normal type of thinking, but you do wonder, like I said, if it opens up to another dimension and they just walk in back to their dimension and
and come back and forth. Are they like so far advanced that they can do that, or they come from outer, and that's where I'm kind of like, are they so far advanced that they can do that, or are they really just a lost strand of Gigantopithecus that just sort of made it through evolution, made it through all the time, and then out it came, But I like the interdimensional theory. It makes it more interesting.
Yeah. Well, and two, you wonder if it's, not like a high tech thing, but so in tune with nature that they can blend into
like a chameleon. Yeah.
Well, like another natural dimension would be, that type of thing. But no, it's definitely very interesting. I do now sport a Bigfoot sticker with "I believe" on the back of my forehead.
There you go. We got one.
Yeah. And then I ordered little patch because I've got all these little cute little camping flags that I put around my big tent. So I have to put that on there. That's in my stack of things to do. But I definitely I found the story to be, it was just the encounter itself. It was just so interesting. It
definitely is.
And it kind of opened my mind a little bit more to it because, like I would say, normally that's not something that I would have ever even fathomed. But with it being, just so different, so not anything you could actually put a name to, and then when you get backup from the police department and the camp manager that we're pretty sure that's what it is. And I was like, well, okay,
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Not everybody's. Not all these people are crazy. And I think that's a lot of thing with Bigfoot too, is you'll have 100 fake stories and like one real one, and you have to decipher which one's the real one. Mm-hmm. And some people think, oh, I want to tell a Bigfoot, it has to be this big scary, I was scared for about, no, that, because that makes it not so believable, because it's like, so you're telling me this 8-foot tall monster, you're right in front of it, and it just lets you, I don't know. I don't know. Some people, they do have true, I want to say like scary stories, I guess, because like you can't fake fear almost. And you can tell when they tell their story, they're like locking up or they're, hyperventilating. It's real hard. And there are stories like me and you where they're just like, this is what we heard or saw, but we're not going to say 100% this is it. It was creepy. But,
like I have heard stories. Like I said, there's a gentleman also that lives here in town local. And he and I were just talking one day. And like I said, he's the one that told me about the tree knocking. But he was also saying about how that Bigfoot has an odor, a particularly musky odor, Now, I did not smell anything, like that. But like I said, this was so loud and it was through the park. So he could have been absolutely anywhere,
Yeah, could have been way far away from you.
Yeah, so I didn't hear anything. But I mean, even a possum, if you get that close to a possum has its own like a musky smell. Mm-hmm. You could imagine a creature that is much larger, furry and,
And that's in a lot of those stories, a lot of people talk about the odor. I've never smelled it either, but they say it's putrid. Like you'll never forget it. And so I've heard, I've never smelled it myself, but yeah, like you said, it could have been he could have been way, way from me screaming, and as big as they are, they could be miles away screaming. It sounds like they're right there, Because you got to think they're 8 to 10 foot tall. So imagine the diaphragm of that creature is just huge, So it's granted, it's like being on a bullhorn.
That's how it was. It was so loud. And like I said, and it went on for like a good 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even think a human could scream like that for 2 hours. Just this loud, this guttural, it was, like I said, it was something that I still could not really tell you what it was,
Right. Yeah. You should definitely check out the Ohio Grassman howls and see if it compares to yours. And I don't know if you know who Dr. Ron Moorhead is.
Mm-mm.
Okay. He was real big in the 80s or 70s. I mean, he's still alive, but he was like a real renowned, back when like the Bigfoot researchers were coming up. He was like real big, and he recorded something that no man has ever recorded. It's called the Sierra Sound. I think some people have tried to record it, and you can hear, and he tells you in the video, you can hear him talking, and then you can hear these Bigfoot talking back to him, and then they'll start talking to each other, and then he'll mimic what they're saying, and then they'll mimic back. And it's like, how do they explain it? They said it sounds like a bunch of old samurais, almost like it's real good. Yeah, and you should listen to it. It's one of the wildest YouTube videos. It gives me chills when I hear it, but it's like, I don't think it's very long, but it's very, and Dr. Ron Moorhead, very interesting guy too. He's got some good books and stuff. He actually has a Peruvian, it's like a Peruvian skull, like the elongated is way out here, and he actually has one of them. They're very hard to come by, but he has one, and he talks about it on Sasquatch Chronicles.
Yeah, well, you talking about the shape of the Peruvian skull, that sounds almost like the Karankawa Indian skulls. They're
Yeah, they were very interesting too, and I know they're all gone, but they were like six. They were very big for natives, 6-7 foot. And they ate nothing but protein. And what's crazy about them is you could still walk along like the bays, and a lot of people see the oysters piled up. That's not natural. That's from them. As they would eat them, they'd pile them up, and that was their landmarks. And that's these oysters are here, and this is all their hunting grounds. They're very. I've read a little bit about them. They have a very good history.
Yeah.
So they were huge. They were huge people. They weren't little.
Well, I was born and raised in Galveston. And, so of course, the Karankawa Indians, that was one of my favorite history subjects back then. Many years ago, they had a really, really good ghost tour, and it was a van, and it would drive you all over, and it drove you all the way out to the end of the island to where they said was Karankawa burial grounds, which was probably now a condo.
Yeah, probably.
that type of thing, but just very, very interesting,
Yeah, I wouldn't. I want to do, because like I said, I do paranormal too, and I would like to do a ghost tour in Galveston. Galveston has a lot of history, a lot of rich history, especially with the storm of what was it, 1912? I think it was
the 1900 storm.
Yeah, that one, and just so much has happened there from the mob being there and all that. It's a very interesting place.
Yeah,
I'm originally from Angleton, and then relocated to Santa Fe. So I grew up all in this area, all along the Gulf Coast. So, and, grew up learning about the Karankawas, grew up learning about, the different animals and stuff that they had in this area and stuff. I love history. So that's one of my things.
Oh, me too. Also, it's like, I've always been talking about the supernatural and things. I've always been kind of sensitive. Mm-hmm. And, my family, we had a funeral home, so I worked in the funeral business for many, many years. And so I've definitely got some little tales, regarding, bad things that I have seen and felt. And a long time ago, I was in, I believe it was Charleston, and I'd gone on a ghost tour there. And they were talking about, it was a guy, and he'd had an affair with like one of his slaves. Type of thing. And she always thought, I think she might have been like a mix, and she thought that he would marry her or whatever. Well, instead, he got engaged and was going to marry another woman, and she murdered him. But I had recently become engaged. And while we were in that room and they were talking about it, I could feel someone trying to pull my engagement ring off my finger.
Oh, wow. And that blows my mind. Yeah, that's a very creepy. See, I love ghosts, but I don't want to be touched. I don't know if I can handle that. Especially, like if you're in a room where you're by yourself and you're doing the tour and they touch you. And have you ever done the, I'm sure you have, but the Bishop's Palace, I think is what it is.
Yeah.
I went in there a few years ago and I asked the lady, I said, ma'am, is this haunted? And she said, well, she pulled me over to the side. She goes, it is, but we can't say that. And I was like, is it? She goes, oh yeah, we see stuff. We hear stuff all the time coming up. She said, you'll hear kids running up and down the stairs. She was like, people will get touched and they don't want to say nothing. It's like, oh, it did feel weird. And she says, oh yeah, it's all the time. And I was like, oh, that's cool.
So yeah.
Yeah, I love paranormal. So,
well, with our funeral home for many, many years, my aunt would always say that she could see this pair of white tennis shoes running across the chapel. For years, we always talked about this. And we're like, okay, yeah. So one time I was there at the funeral home and I heard things rattling in the morgue. And I was like, okay, I hear you. I'm not scared of you. And that was kind of that. Well, one time, the phone rang and my cousin was in the back. She was having a meeting. And so I walked to our back arrangements office to tell her that there was a phone call for her. And there was someone sitting in the chair by the door. White shirt, shoulder length straight hair, acne scars, the hair was greasy, and blue jeans. And when she got out, I go, who was that? I said, he looked really mad because I interrupted y'all's meeting. She goes, there was nobody in that chair. So the theory is I saw the rest of them where they were only seeing the feet because I couldn't see his feet. I only saw the legs,
Okay.
And then the things rattling in the morgue at different times. And then a house that I grew up in, we had a family member pass away there. And I was walking up the stairs to my bedroom. My mother's bedroom was right next to mine. And when I got to the top of the stairs, there was a presence, and I could feel it pass completely through my body.
Oh, yeah.
As I walked through, you physically feel it going right through my body.
What is the what is the sensation? I've always wanted to know, like, what do you feel like when they pass? I've heard people say I felt it pass through, but what do you feel?
It's weird. Like, you would think almost like an ectoplasm, like something, but it just feels like a spirit or air or something light. It goes just right through you. I mean, and you just completely feel it all through your core.
That's so different. That blows my mind. Yeah, the paranormal, there's so many interesting things out there like that. And that's something that I don't see how people just can't believe in stuff like that, because there's so many things that are around you. I think it's just, if you're in tune to it, you'll see it, you'll feel it, you'll know that it's there, or if it wants you to know. Like, I got a story coming out about a guy, and his story is beyond creepy, but it's good. It's good. And it's one of those things like, oh man, I'm glad that didn't happen to me. But yeah, it's one of those things. Yeah, it'll be coming out pretty soon. But yeah, it's oh wow. So you have quite a bit of paranormal tales too, then.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, even ever since I was a little girl, I've always felt that, where I felt someone, behind me call my name, or someone touch me and there be no one there. That type of thing I always had, and it kind of runs in my family. My dad was very much a sensitive also. My dad worked all over the world, but he always absolutely knew if something had happened, and he would call me. And it would always be right at the moment something had happened, like our dog had gotten run over. And my dad called immediately because he knew my heart hurt. We had that much of a connection, and I was always like that. My grandmother died before I was born, so I don't know if she had that, but her sister, my Aunt Lee, was that way too. That sixth sense, that knowing. And I kind of have that too. My husband's like, how do you know these things? I just did because it's like I almost like see things or know things before they happen, or somebody, and I'm like, I have that feeling, that gut, and I've kind of learned to go with that, because it's like if if my mind or whatever is telling me, then it's got to be right. And the truth.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so that's neat.
Yeah. I have several on my YouTube channel. Oh gosh, I guess about a year ago, one of my friends, their daughter's in high school, and they were doing a little program. And so I did several videos about my paranormal experiences for them for their class project. So I'll send you those, my channel, and you want to look at those.
Yeah, if you want to plug in your channel and so people can go check it out themselves, you're more than welcome to if you want.
Oh, well, no, mostly it's cooking and recipes on there, so they would be bored out of their minds. Hey,
there's nothing wrong with cooking videos, though. So
yeah. One was the Elvis birthday party. I had an Elvis impersonator for my birthday party.
Oh, did you?
that was about interesting, but other than that, it's just cooking videos.
Okay, yeah, right. Well, thank you for coming on. We'll definitely have to have you back if you'd like to tell some paranormal stories.
Anytime.
I appreciate you coming on. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. If you'd like to be on the show, shoot me an email. My email address is polarbear, HOTH, @gmail.com. Thanks.